some feedback on assignment 1, folks. The assignment was handled really well by the group. We had an average mark of around 32 out of 50. So the marks ranged from a couple of failing submissions up to the highest performing submissions, which were clustered in the low to mid 40s with a high mark of 46 out of 50. So particular congratulations go to Nadine Bailey, who took on an assignment set in Singapore. So that was great work, Nadine, really fleshing out the context there. Others on the roll of honour are Carolyn Bartlett, Peta Campbell, Stephanie Chan, June Chin, Jessica Conlon, Emily Ford, Lauren Mason, Lena Nemi, Karen Playden, Trung Quach, Matthew Trevor and Lachlan Turnbull for outstanding submissions. So these were submissions, essays that were effectively structured, they were articulate and they were thoroughly researched. So great work, guys. Now what hit me most strongly from across the cohort was the enthusiasm. So most submissions were bursting with ideas, positively bubbling with ideas. But let's have a chat about what made for outstanding submissions. Now the answer there is that it was around the depth of understanding. We did significant work in the run-up to the assignment deadline to scaffold the conceptual stuff with some examples and illustrations. So you'll remember back in week 2 we had a look at some examples of how there's a decline in manufacturing, how that illustrates the idea of a service economy that evolves within the information society. And we looked at some of the possibilities of a creative economy that might fill the void. Now, that puts some meat on the theoretical bones of the information society concept. So that gave you something to build on. You had the raw materials. There's the theoretical structure there from Borden and Robinson, some context, some examples, and some raw data to tap into from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the International Telecommunications Union. So we had some data that you might explore in terms of how Australia ranks compared to other nations in the ITU's information society measures. So you're in a pretty good position to formulate your own response, your own position in terms of the assignment question. And those that did well use those raw materials. They provided a structured argument articulating an individual perspective. Those that moved up the marking scale demonstrated wider research and reading and used these sources to support their argument with relevant theoretical perspectives and data. So empirical evidence that supported your argument, that moved it beyond opinion into substantiated positions, substantiated perspectives, substantiated argument. And that was really important. And that brings me to a really important point that came out from the assignments as a whole. And it's around how you use sources, how you use source material, how you use online source material. So you're doing some research for your assignment. You're using Google to explore the information landscape. You need to have your information literacy hat on here, okay? So if you're referring to government policy or government departments or government ministers, you need to be conscious that this is a landscape that fluctuates, it changes. Let's have a look at an example. So the Department for Broadband Communications and the Digital Economy, this was a portfolio initiated by Kevin Rudd in his initial term as Prime Minister, and it was the driving force for policy on the digital economy and for the flagship policy, the National Broadband Network. And that government portfolio was around through the Rudd, Gillard and Rudd again terms as Prime Minister. But we had a federal election in September 2013 and the Abbott government has shaken things up. So that government portfolio doesn't exist anymore. We've now got a Department for Communications led by Malcolm Turnbull. We've got a policy on the national broadband network that's significantly shifted. So under the Abbott government, we've moved away from what's described as fibre to the home, a universal mandate for high-speed broadband to every household across Australia, to a policy that's described as fibre to the node. What that means is that high-speed broadband will be going to community nodes, and households can then use their existing copper network, the existing telecommunications network, to access high-speed broadband, or not improved broadband, from that node access point. Okay, now this is important because there's a niche here now. How about libraries as community access point, community hubs for high-speed broadband? So what I'm trying to illustrate is that the policy landscape fluctuates, and we need to be conscious of that, because it's going to impact on how we make strategic decisions around the kinds of services that we might provide. So I find that across the submissions there was some variation in how you referred to that policy landscape, that government agenda, and I think I'd really like to see us working on that in assignment 2. Get your digital literacy hats on, your information literacy hats on. I'd like to see some real accuracy around government policy and government departments, okay, because this is the policy framework that we're working within. And not just that, it's not just about how you work towards your university assignments. You guys are going to be information literacy experts. You're going to be guiding your user communities around digital literacy, and I need you to be demonstrating that skill. Okay, so let's agree that that's something we're going to work on for assignment 2. But overall, great effort, great enthusiasm in this assignment, and that's really going to pay off in approaching assignment 2, because what you've done here is provided a framework, you've provided a foundation, and you can draw on your research that you've done in assignment 1, you can use that again in assignment 2, and that's what we'll be looking at in coming weeks.